Hi everybody, this is Brandi, and you're about to hear a very special episode choice today suggested by me.
Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And it's fair to say Joy and I, or should I say Joy, has had a very spirited pre-record conversation.
So we haven't recorded in a while.
So this is going to be a lively chat this evening. We are recording on a Wednesday, the traditional No Name Music Cast recording night, and that's also the day that the episodes drop. So, the symmetry is coming together.
We've tried to record this episode, 4, 5, 6, 27 times? I don't know.
Yeah, we've had internet outages, things to do, all manner of shenanigans happening, but we are...
Places to be.
Yeah, we are here and we are recording, and we're recording an episode for you. So just at the very top of the show, I have a couple of music news items. So the first music news item is probably one that won't surprise anyone because it was all over the news. And this is Aerosmith.
Yep.
Now, Aerosmith have said that they are retiring from touring and performing. Now, Steven Tyler, he's had damaged vocal cords and a fractured larynx, apparently.
And all the yelling might do that to you. I'm just saying.
Yeah, his vocal style is very extreme. Mm-hmm. But even still, a lot of singers are able to perform into later life. But I think rock and roll has just caught up with him and he can no longer do it. So they put out a... big press release, and he said he's been spent months tirelessly working on getting his voice to where it could be before the injury. He's been struggling despite having the best medical team at his side, but it's very clear that a full recovery from his vocal injury is not possible. And we've made a heartbreaking but difficult, necessary decision as a band of brothers to retire from the touring stage.
He is in his mid-70s, which we want he might even be earlier, later 70s. I'm not sure, but he's definitely in his 70s. But to be fair, he is one of those people, when I think of vocal ranges, who may sing a lot with their chest voice instead of their head voice, vocal cords rubbing together. I could see how that could affect you in the long run. But I love me some Aerosmith, and I'm sad to see it.
Yeah, they were on their farewell tour and they'd postponed so many dates, but at this point they've just completely cancelled the farewell tour, and that's it for Aerosmith, unfortunately. Whether Steven Tyler will ever record again, I don't know.
Debatable.
But certainly as far as touring and performing is concerned, that's pretty much it for Aerosmith. And it's sad. And the sad thing about it is, as the years roll on, there's going to be far more of this, because all these acts that we love, all these legacy acts that have been around for decades.
Tim, don't say it.
They're just getting old. And unfortunately, Father Time is not very forgiving.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, how old is Steven Tyler? He's got to be in his mid-70s, right? All right, let's give it a go. Let's give it a go, guys.
Give it a goog.
He has to be 76. So
okay.
He's even past mid-70s at this point.
Yeah, he's like the age of my parents, with their various health things they have going on. And he's still out there touring with the rock and roll band.
I'll give him that. That takes talent. Well, and honestly, I just don't know that I can make it that long. I'd be like, I'm tired. I'll just go on without me. Yeah. My knees hurt when I walk down the stairs too many times. I just don't know that I can handle this, Tim.
Exactly.
That might be all the falling, but we digress.
Absolutely. Well, you've had enough injuries for a while, Joy. You don't need any more injuries.
Don't say that out loud, Tim. It's like a hex that goes out to the universe. All right.
Touching my not really wooden desk, but we'll see what we can do for you.
Mine's made from some fake whatever wood.
This is Amazon's finest, let me tell you.
Where I got mine too. Me and Tim are very on brand. All right, what's the next bit of music news?
Okay, so this is just a follow-up. So we mentioned a few episodes back that the Queen group of companies, there was rumors that they were selling out to Sony, a deal which similar that Bruce Springsteen done and Bob Dylan has done and the Beach Boys has done, where you sell everything, the rights, the music, the publishing, the catalog, everything in one big lump. And then they pay you so much money for doing that. And there was a whole thing about Sony was in negotiations with the Queen well, to give it the correct name, Queen Productions Limited, to acquire everything to do with Queen for $1 billion. And this was a rumor, and it had gone around the industry and the news sites and what have you. So anyway, in the summer 2024 issue of the Queen Fan Club magazine. Now, I used to be a member of the Queen Fan Club for many years. And then, like, the internet sort of killed that stuff. I didn't even know the Queen Fan Club was still going. And secondly, that they even published their quarterly magazine. I have no idea. The Queen Fan Club used to be in Barnes in the place called the Old Bakehouse. And you could go there and hang out and listen to music and stuff like that. And Jackie and Val, who used to run the Queen Fan Club, were there, and you could talk to them and stuff. And
they obviously watch this podcast. So, I mean, watch it. Yes, they watch it with their eyes, Joy. They don't hear it, Tim. They watch it.
They do, because, you know, they're part of the Queen universe. They're watching away. But, you know, that surprised me. But anyhow, so it turns out that they are still publishing the Queen Fan Club magazine. And every issue, they have a letter from one of the surviving members of Queen. I'd imagine at this point it's probably only Brian and Roger, because I'm sure John Deacon wants absolutely nothing to do with it.
He just looks like an old, angry British man, but continue.
Okay, so this was published in that magazine. And this is what Brian May is saying.
The way you said okay just cracked me up, but continue, Tim.
All right. So this is what was published in the magazine. And this is from Brian. It says, Brian here with a timely update. As I write, there are lots of stories leaked to the press about a deal being done between us and the Sony company. So the fact is that we are working on a special deal with them, so it's no longer a private thing. It's actually very exciting, a completely new adventure in which we retain artistic control of the Queen legacy we've built up for all over these years, but we divert the monies it makes out there to Sony in return for a large sum of coins. I've probably said too much, but this is a decision which will free our children and loved ones from the burden of running this very complex beast, which is Queen once we are gone, and liberate us from many of the ties at present which hold us back. And for me, it's also giving the more immediate pair to help Britain's wild animals. So I'm assuming, as I probably thought, it sort of wraps up all their affairs in a nice, neat bow. Their families don't have to deal with the business runnings of the Queen world. And then Brian May's going to get this massive amount of money. And while he's still alive, he can invest it in the things that he's passionate about, which is protecting wild animals.
I mean, yeah. Let's protect all the animals. Go, Brian May. Go, Brian May. Go. I mean, I just don't feel like Brian May would. And of course, I literally just fixed my camera, guys, and I hit it. It's going to be a long one, Tim. But with that being said, I don't think anything Brian May puts his money to would be bad. Like we said, he's like the world's weirdest, perfect person. And he's really smart.
Yeah, and do you know what I wonder? I mean, one day Brian May's not going to be with us anymore, and that's going to be an incredibly sad day, and I hope it's many years in the future.
It's got to be at least 47, but continue.
Yeah. So he's got that hand-built guitar that he made with his dad that he's played all the way through Queen.
He's going to hand give it to you, Tim. We know that.
Well, I'm assuming it will be sold. And I just wonder if he would bequeath that to like an animal charity or something.
Ooh, I mean, I hope he would. But on the same time, I mean, if he does it, he still did a lot of good things, so you can't hold him accountable.
No, absolutely.
He's literally an astrophysicist. So,
well, and a doctor, and a sir, and a CBE,
OBE, CBE, whatever all those British names are. In America, we're just like, you're American, and in British, they're like, you got an OBE and you're a sir.
Well, you would get the Presidential Medal of Freedom, but it doesn't really put any letters before or
after your name. I know, it doesn't give you like fancy letters, though. All right, Tim, is that everything you have for the people before I step into my episode?
Yeah, that's everything I have. I think you had something just before we get into the episode.
I do, but it is related to the episode. So, for those who do not know, this episode has been requested multiple times, but only by one certain person. Mm-hmm. It may be my twin sister. It may have been a source of torture for Tim. I'm not sure yet. We'll find out shortly. But she has requested that Tim gets really invested in one certain artist. Yep. Very strongly, has very strong feelings about said artist. And this artist is from your home country. Even though you are American now, you do have a home country that is back in England. I have learned a little bit about his history while researching this. But did you know said artist considers, I want to know if you find this weird before we give the name away. He considers Shania Twain to be his biggest influence.
I didn't know that. Having listened to this music for the last couple of weeks, I would have never picked up on that.
More weeks than Tim wanted. He also has this person. I'm going to just keep going through these facts until maybe somebody guesses it, but they're probably not because they're probably like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He has a matching tattoo with Ed Sheeran, I would say, but I listen to the carpool karaoke version with Elton John, and he calls him Ed Sheeran.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know why, but that makes me laugh, Tim, because that's incredibly like very much what I imagine Elton John to be in life. I don't know why, but he has over 40 tattoos, and he was the first male to do a solo photo shoot on the cover of Vogue. If you guys haven't guessed yet, we're talking about Harry Styles.
Yeah, Harry Styles.
And Tim has probably never thought that he would listen to this much Harry Styles in his entire adult life. Am I correct?
Yes, I'd heard of the name Harry Styles. I mean, bearing in mind, I've been listening to this Harry Styles music for about 3 weeks on and off, I suppose.
We keep to record this episode.
We postponed the record of this episode, which I think was a ploy by Joy, just to extend the torture even longer.
Not particularly, but it did work. So for those who don't know, his name is Harry Edward Styles. He is an English singer, known for his influence on pop culture, showmanship, artistry, philanthropy, and he's big into music and fashion. He actually started out, so apparently him and a few other solo artists were let go on the original episodes of X Factor, and then they formed a group. Simon Cowell was behind said forming of group because that's what Simons do. We got Solomon Fuller, Simon Cowell. If your name's Simon, you must be behind boy bands, right, Tim? It's just inevitable. And they formed the band that is One Direction. One Direction. Now, to be fair, One Direction is one of the best-selling boy bands of all time. They went in indefinite hiatus in 2016. And then after that, he went into solo work, which he is the one who actually made it, Tim, after they went solo. For whatever reason, Harry Styles was the one. A couple of them had like a couple of little songs here and there, but the one who actually stand the test of time has had multiple hits. So for perspective, he has won 6 Brit Awards, 3 Grammy Awards, 3 American Music Awards. And as Tim pointed out, he has 3 MTV Video Music Awards, but that could be nothing because MTV doesn't show music or videos anymore. So we don't know why they keep calling them that.
Who can honestly say at this point?
In 2025, he was part of one of his albums was Rolling Stone's greatest 500 albums of all times. Its lead single, which is in this list that we're going to go through, is As It Was. And it was the number 1 song in 2022 globally. Like literally in every major country that you can think of, this was the number 1 song. So he does have some accolades behind him. Now, before we get into this, I will say I made some few notes, Tim, but I'm fairly familiar with almost every song on this list, so I didn't go into detail. I want Tim, who is coming to this with the probably most blank brain of any person possible, to tell you guys what he thought, and his aspirations were. So just on glance, Tim, how do you feel about Harry Styles?
Okay, so I knew that he was a member of the band One Direction. I didn't know that. I've never heard any music by One Direction. Completely passed me by. And you're reading off these accolades for Harry Styles, and I had no idea. I mean, it was a name I'd heard of. I'd never heard of any Harry Styles' music, but I didn't realize Harry Styles was that popular, if I'm being completely honest with you. I will say that the music itself is okay. Nothing in it is offensive. And of course, I'm not going to talk about the songs individually because we're going to get that into the episode.
Of course.
But there was nothing. If this is like the best 11 songs or 12 songs in his catalog, nothing blew my mind. Where's his, I don't know, Stairway to Heaven, Bohemian Rhapsody, whatever you want to call it? Every one of those was kind of meh for me.
So I know what Tim's saying. And so this list of 11, 12, whatever many songs was written by Brandi, my twin sister. I didn't give her any influence on this. She just picked 11, 12 songs she left from Harry Styles and said, listen to it. Now, I know what Tim's saying. Is some of it can feel a lot the same. It really can. It can also feel like album filler, but I do think there are some pieces in it that are really good. And there are some moments that I really liked. And I could see why comparatively, Tim, think about a lot of the musicians you have out there right now. I'd rather listen to this.
Sure. I mean, as I said, nothing in this is offensive. It doesn't have rap noise in it. There's
a lot of songs about lovers that like every other song has.
It's fine. And if I'm sitting in the hairdressers and then they've got a radio on and they're playing this, I'm not going to think it's terrible. But at the same time, I'm not going to go, wow, what was that?
It's kind of crazy to think about. Now, what I think, though, and maybe it's kind of like when we talked about Miley. It's one of those like hidden gems. And I think the reason he sticks out to people is if you go look at like his Tiny Desk concert, right? Tim, we talked about the Tiny Desk concerts. He is basically a cappella through the whole thing, and he has like perfect pitch. He's musically talented, and that is what I think what stands out to him. But you might not get that from just the mainstream hits you hear on the radio. Isn't that always the way, though? Like these people can be really great, and you don't know it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of the Tiny Desks, but most of the time they're people I've never ever heard of, and I never get involved with them. The best one is the one by Blue Man Group, and without question.
Sesame Street gave a great Tiny Desk concert. Me and Elmo, when Big Bird gives his heart out to him, it's amazing. Also, actually, I do agree with Tim. The Blue Man Group was great, but you know what one of my favorites was, if I'm being completely honest, Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. If you've never heard,
don't know that one. So
they sing that song, Home, Let Me Go Home. I don't know. And they had a few songs that were like on like car commercials. And I only know them because when I was in Utah, before we get into more Harry Styles, I was in Utah. We went to a free, you know how like before a musician becomes a big musician, sometimes you can catch their concerts for free and people don't realize this.
Yeah.
So we were in Utah and they had like this summer concert series. And I still remember, Tim, this is one of the greatest memories that in my entire livelihood sticks out to me. And I know somebody out there is going to yell at me. Is when Charlie still had, so my husband has rode motorcycles off and on through our entire marriage. He buys and he sells them. He did have a bad accident on one of them. So, there's that. But overall, he loves riding motorcycles. He does. That's just one of his passions. I think he had a Goldwing and we took it to the concert and it worked out perfectly because we got to park right up front when everybody else had to walk a mile. It was a free concert series they were doing. And it was like the most iconic, Tim, like sun setting, everything's perfect ride. Like everything was just very summer vibes. We parked it. We only knew one song from this band. It was that Home song that I just sang to you. That had made mainstream commercial success, but wasn't huge. And it was right before their song Janglin' became in a car commercial, and now everybody knows it because it's embedded in their brain forever. But I just remember riding to the concert, parking right up front, sun was setting, beautiful music going, these wonderful musicians playing in front of us. So they stick out to me. But and so it's like a couple, the lead singers of Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros are like a couple. And be honest, they all look like they're in a hippie commune. I don't know if they are. I cannot confirm or deny that. That's what they look like. They're giving a little bit of hippie commune vibes, but they sound wonderful together. And their Tiny Desk series, bar none, my favorite. If you have not looked up Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros, they have this really, and like you were saying, you know how Harry Styles, we were talking about, some of their music all kind of sounds the same. They have really diverse catalog, very talented. They have 74 musicians in that Tiny Desk area trying to play with them. But I still stand by it. Sesame Street did it the best, everybody.
I don't know. I would raise you the Blue Man Group one.
I might have some biases because me and Elmo are friends. It's fine. All right, so let's get into Harry Styles. So I kind of gave you guys a little bit of background. From what I got was he was raised in England. He was raised from his mother and his father. They divorced when he was 7. They moved. They moved to Cheshire. I'm assuming it's said Cheshire, the cat, Tim, in England.
You say Cheshire.
Okay, whatever Tim said, that's where they went. She got remarried. He had a pretty normal life. They said he started singing karaoke, just really got into music. Then he ended up on the X Factor. He did have a band back in the day that was mildly popular, and he did musical theater, which if you see him, He's very much into his grandiose clothing. And I think that plays into kind of like the David Bowie side of it, Tim. Like, I don't think the obsession with him is just the music. I think he kind of paints a picture. You know, like there's a difference between being a musician and being a star. And we talk about that with like someone like Cher or Elton John. They have like that kind of motif around them. And I think that's where Harry comes in.
Gotcha.
So I think that plays into it, Tim. So Brandi picked a list of songs, which I'm going to bring up on my phone right now because that's where I have them, that she thought we should listen to. And we're going to start at the very beginning. Now, what's interesting to me, Tim, and I listened to these songs probably 70. I've heard a lot of these songs before this. They're on my playlist, but I don't listen to Harry Styles back to back. But if it comes on my playlist, I'm going to let it play because I like it, right? Mm-hmm. Was the first song she picked was Matilda.
Yeah.
And it's actually very different than a lot of the other songs on the playlist. So let Tim tell you what he thought of it at first. What is your first thoughts on Matilda?
Okay. So firstly, the song Matilda, I probably never want to hear it again. And I'll tell you for why. And it's nothing to do with the song, nothing to do with the singing, the instrumentation, the songwriting or anything. It's just... This is how I do this stuff when Joy and I have an episode where I need to learn about something and listen to music.
It's the beginning song. I know where this is going.
Yeah. So I go to lunch. I come back from lunch. I get back to my desk and then I put it on just as I come back from lunch. And then for the last 2 weeks, that's how it starts.
I know exactly what it's like back in the day when you actually had a CD, Tim, and your CD player and your radio would cut on and you have to hear the first song. For me, it was the Kinks back in the day. For those who don't know, though, I've heard the song, Tim, but I had never put like any thought into what he was singing about. Does that make sense, Tim? It was kind of radio filler. Yeah. What's interesting, though, is if you pay attention to the lyrics, he's actually singing about somebody who's cut their family off. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some themes of that in the song.
So it sounds like to me it's somebody who's cut their family off because of trauma and things of that nature. And he's singing about how she could get over it very easily. And he struggled with, that, which I feel like would resonate with certain people. And I could see why that song would be adaptable to a lot of cultures. Mm-hmm. Different people, different things. But I understand what Tim's saying because I have the exact same thing with the Kinks. Because when I was younger, the first car I bought, I put my mixed CD in there. And every time I turned the car on, the Kinks would play. And I was like, I never want to hear this again.
No, absolutely. But I mean, outside of that, I mean, it has a very nice acoustic guitar intro with like harmonics. In a way, it reminds me of Van Halen's Little Guitars. I don't know if that's a track that you would know from.
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, with the harmonics and on the acoustic and stuff. So I mean, it's kind of a cool little song, but again, it's fine. But it doesn't want that song, especially, doesn't make me want to find
listen
about
to it over and over again.
No, I don't want to listen to other Harry Styles music if that's the only one I heard.
Fair enough. So the next song is actually, let me look up because I think I know what it is. So this is a song that lives rent free in my head because it is his number one hit that everybody knows if you know anything about Harry Styles. Watermelon Sugar. Okay, Watermelon Sugar. Hi. It's an earworm, Tim. It is an earworm.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, like the only note I have for this is Watermelon Sugar High, which is all you need to know because that's the bit that you remember. Like you say, it's the earworm. So this was a big hit. I have no idea. I have no point of reference. This was probably
his biggest hit of every song that we listened to, Tim. And what's interesting, though, to me, the one thing I will say is what I wrote down was I like this song, but I hear it once a week because, like, if you go in the grocery store or anything, Tim doesn't go in the grocery store, so he would not know this if you know anything about Tim. He would rather be punched in the face than go into Walmart. So,
oh, goodness me. I mean, like today, we did our clickless Kroger order. This is the deal. Hannah does the order. I go and pick it up. And then I never have to go in there. And in fact, I don't know if you know, especially Walmart, someone tried to set fire to Walmart recently inside.
So true story. So my niece stayed the weekend with me. She came. I picked her up on Thursday evening. I took Friday off of work. And then Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So I've had all of my nephews come stay with me. You know, when you're a teenager, you just want to get out of your family's house. And you got the aunt who doesn't have any kids. It's kind of like, I don't want to say I'm the cool off, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty... So they're like, yeah, let's go stay with Joy. So, and it's about, so we met halfway. We met in Withville Walmart. I picked her up. Gloria spent the week with me. We went school shopping because she started school this week. So I took her and got her a bunch of new clothes, as the cool aunt does. I dyed her hair for her, did a split dye. She's half purple now because that's what you do. We had a pretty fun weekend. Whatever. We played some games, hung out together. We were trying to go to the duck pond every week, but as Tim could tell you, it rained every day this weekend. And the moment we tried to walk out the door twice, lightning came down. And if you know me, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So, and Gloria has the same luck I do because it's a family luck, Tim. So bad idea. Anyway, so we were out shopping on Sunday. And I took her, we went to Target, we went to Big Lots, we went to basically all those stores, you know what I'm talking about, Ross, all that stuff in Christiansburg. Yeah. And we were going to go to Walmart because she wanted to get some leggings. And to be honest, leggings are leggings. You can get them anywhere. We go into the parking lot. Joy parks the car. And some lady comes out screaming at us at the top of her lungs, "They're clowns!" And we're like, okay. Like you would have thought that we were ready to barge in the door. We hadn't even opened our doors yet. Turns out some customers set fire to the actual sportsman section of our Walmart.
Yeah. And it filled the place full of smoke. I saw some photographs. All the racking was all charred. And then they had to close for 2 days while they cleaned it all up and got all the smoke out of it.
Yes. So we drove back to I'm a town over in Radford. And we just went to that Walmart because we could. But to be honest, that poor lady who was screaming at us, she had a personal vendetta against this Walmart being closed. Because what it was is I parked up on the side, Tim, you know how when you come in where like the restaurants are over here, and then you've got like the mechanic side to like fix your car, and you can park up on this side. So I pulled in right there, and she pulled it directly behind my car, so we could not get out. It was rolled down her window in her minivan with her 7 kids behind her, and screamed at the top of the lungs, "They're closed!" And I was like, okay.
A public service announcement, no less.
She took the fact that Walmart was closed way more serious than we did. We were just like, huh? And I was like, why? And she goes, "It's so funny." Like you would have thought that the whole. And I'm looking at it going, well, it's not really on fire right now. Anyway, some moral stories. Yes, Tim, I did know that. It was a whole adventure in my weekend. And this is why Tim doesn't go in grocery stores.
And this is why Tim doesn't go in shops full stop, because you can just order it on the internet and they send it to you.
Fair enough. All right. What was the last song? We said Watermelon Sugar High, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the next one is Golden. And this one is also one that has lived, "You're So Golden," has lived rent-free in my head. I have a few things to say about this song. First of all, this song is like the perfect song for a movie about young adults progressing. I don't know how better to explain. You know how like a movie with young adults, and things are getting a little bit da 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 da, and things are getting a little bit better for them. And what I picked from this, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
It was known as a coming of age film.
It was, yes, that's a better way of saying it. These are my notes, and I just said young adults progressing. But Tim knows what I'm saying. It's like, da, 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 "You're so gold." Like, I don't know how better to explain it. If you've ever heard a song that fills up that moment in a film or a TV show, it's this song. Would you agree with that, Tim?
Yeah, I think it would work as that. I mean, as you know, I haven't really seen a new film since about 1990.
But even 80s shows, I could see this filling that kind of like
I could see that. Maybe a great driving sequence in Knight Rider. I don't know.
Harry Styles makes it to Knight Rider all over. But what was interesting is I noticed this throughout all of this, but it really came apparent to me, Tim, is the way he plays with the back and forth of the beat. That "you're so golden," and then it kind of drops, and then he sings a part, and then the beat picks back up. Mm-hmm. Like he plays very heavily in every song we heard doing that. Did you hear that, Tim, or am I crazy?
No, I think it's in there. I mean, I don't know the guy personally, obviously.
You've never spoken to Harry Styles, is what I'm hearing.
He doesn't strike me as a musical genius from what I've heard. However, but it's fine.
He does play a really mean guitar, Tim. You haven't seen him play the guitar. He's pretty good guitar player.
I've never seen him play the guitar, no.
I'm going to have to send him a video. We'll get a react out of Tim for the next episode.
Is it as good as Cory Feldman playing the guitar?
Have you seen Cory Feldman?
Have you seen the video?
Okay, so what I know about Cory Feldman is weird. So I watched a thing about Corey Feldman before he got into have you ever heard of like Corey's house? And he had these women living with him and all kinds of weird stuff. And he thinks he's like a cool musician, Tim. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. So Corey Feldman has like 3 women living with him at all times. And he may have some weird things going on there that we're not going to get into our PG podcast. And he's a strange dude, Tim. That's all I'm going to say. We'll just leave it at that. Give it a Google later for those who are curious. But I did know that he plays Charlie. Didn't he have like one song that was popular?
He did. There's a video of him on YouTube, I think, on some kind of Howard Stern thing, miming to a backing track, doing some sort of 90s hip hop type thing, which is equally appalling. But this, let me tell you about this. So he is currently supporting Limp Bizkit on their tour.
That in and of itself is enough for me to be like, I'm out. Corey Feldman supporting Limp Bizkit sounds like my nightmares, Tim.
And he's playing a purple EVH style guitar. And you just have to see the clip. He's playing like some fast runs badly. He then lets the strings go.
But he thinks he sounds really cool, right?
Yeah, then he lets the strings go chang, and then he dives the tremolo bar, but without hitting the strings first, so it just makes a really bad noise. And then it's got a kill switch on it, which what you would normally do is get the guitar feeding back and goes boop, 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 like Morse code. Apart from he just presses it, and this clanging noise just comes in and out. It is terrible.
Well, to add to our hate of Corey Feldman, Tim, he calls the women who lives with him Corey's angels.
Oh, goodness me.
I can throw that out there. And it started with women he met at the Playboy Mansion. So take that as you guys want. So here's my question, though. Is he a better guitarist or is he worse than our favorite guitarist for the band Hole? How's Courtney Love and Corey? Who's better, who's worse, Tim? What do you want to vote?
It's very hard to say. I honestly don't know.
They're both just terrible.
It's very tricky.
It's tricky to rock. That's all Tim's going to say about that. Yeah. All right. I'm going to have to Google that when we get out of here. All right. So we were talking about Golden. The next one is Adore You, which, to be honest, is the same song as Golden. As what I wrote in my notes. Am I wrong, Tim?
No, they're very similar. I mean, this one I said it has a good beat and it's like good beat pop music.
You know what I wrote? Makes me want to dance.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where I was coming from.
I think that's a great way to explain it because that's what it made me feel. It's not bad music. It doesn't even feel like, we talk about like some bands that feel like radio filler. I've used that comment many times. It doesn't even feel like radio filler. It just feels like, I feel like Harry Styles has this way of like pinning in on what, like when you're watching a montage in a 90s movie or an 80s movie, that kind of feel. Mm-hmm. That's what I get from Golden and Adore You. And I don't know how to bottle that, but that's what I get from it.
Yeah. I mean, as I said before, I don't dislike any of these songs. All of these songs are fine. They just don't rock my world. I mean, like, I can hear a Katy Perry song, not her recent material, but anything sort of Prism and back. And that is good pop music, but there's some really good, strong songs. Waking Up in Vegas or what's the song? California Girls. Or any of those songs. They're really, really good songs. These are fine songs, but there's nothing in here that wants me to go back and listen to them again.
I don't, especially the ones we just talked about. I agree. There are a few of these that I will go back and listen to, and they're not like I agree with Tim. They're good music. Are they great music? Debatable. But I will say, if you go look at him live and you look at some of the stuff he's done live, I think it is better. And I think some of it comes down to, as we've said many times, we talked about with Miley, we talked about with Kesha, we talked about with Taylor. When the record company kind of dominates what they can do, and these are radio hits. That's all they like. I'm just what it is. I don't know if Tim got my "Rock My World, Little Country Girl" reference when he said they don't rock my world, but I said "Little Country Girl." There's a Brooks and Dunn song. That's the name of it. It says "Rock My World" parentheses Little Country Girl. That's what I was whispering. If anybody else caught that, be here all week, everybody. All right. So what's the next song? The next song on the list is Sign of the Times, which is his other biggest hit, which is also the one that I have probably heard a billion times because Charlie loves this song. My husband adores this song. He thinks it's fantastic. It's probably played in my house a billion times. Okay. This and As It Was. Both of those songs, which is going to come up in a minute, but Sign of the Times and As It Was are Charlie's favorites. And to be honest, they're his favorites because, what are they, Tim? Very overly grandiose.
Yeah, that is exactly what Charlie likes.
And so those larger than life kind of songs, it works. Now, I will say this is one of those songs that I have debated if I actually was hearing the lyrics wrong, right, for a while. Because, he says, the bullets, we never learn something about the bullets. Why do the bullet? I was like, is he actually saying bullets or am I imagining that? I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what he was saying in this song.
Maybe they're metaphorical bullets rather than actual bullets.
I mean, I'm sure they are. Because he's like, just stop your crying. It's a sign of the times, you know what I mean? But he says, we're always stuck running from the bullets. Mm-hmm. And I heard it and I'm like, running from, and I'm like, I heard bullets initially, but I was like, is he actually saying bullets? I don't know why, but that line to me just felt weird.
Okay.
And maybe it's just a Joy thing. I've heard it 1,000 times now. It's giving very fast car, gotta get away, run away kind of thing. That's what I got from it.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at my notes for Sign of the Times, again, I'd never heard this until it was sent to me. I thought when it began, it sounded a little bit like Let It Be, and it does build in a very similar manner as well.
It's ironic you say that because later on, there are 2 other songs that I made Beatles reference to. And you may already be thinking you know which ones, but I can hear that. It's giving that kind of vibes. It's a great song. Like, it is really cool. And if you watch the music video, he's like floating in air at one point, and that kind of fits the song.
Yeah,
I think he's actually floating, Tim. Like, he just does that naturally. Yeah,
I have not seen the music videos. I've only listened to this in the 1 to 2 p.m. slot after lunch.
Well, if you're listening to Harry Styles, you have now dominated Tim's 1 to 2 p.m. slot for the last, 3-4 weeks now.
Yeah, and now this episode is almost recorded and we're almost finished. Well, we've got the rest of the tracks to do, but, we're in the process of recording this episode. As of tomorrow, I'll go back to listening to the Letterman podcast and 80s Wrestling, the podcast, instead in that slot.
I mean, I'll give it to Tim. When you give him a task, he listens and he listens and he listens. He tries his hardest, and I'm sure you heard some really good things in it, but it's just not something you're going to go out of your way to listen to normally. Now, into the next one, because I really want to talk about this, and I'm curious to know what Tim thought of the song. The next one is Canyon Moon. Mm-hmm. I have some very specific notes on this song because it kind of caught me by surprise. I had never heard this song, Tim, till we did this. It's not like a radio hit or something that I had ever sought out. But I had the intro feels, and this is very specific, but if you know what I'm talking about, I said it feels very much like Rod Stewart mixed with Cat Stevens.
Yeah, so the intro is played on a 12-string guitar, acoustic guitar. And this is the main takeaway I had, is it sounds like Simon and Garfunkel's Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard.
Oh, that's a great way. And if you know what I mean by Rod Stewart meets Cat Stevens, it really does match.
See, there we are.
We're on the same wavelength. I don't know how to explain it to him. I actually really love this song. Out of all the songs, I think this is one of my favorites out of the whole thing. I would rank this up there as one of his tops, but I had never heard it in a million years. And I mean, the whole song's just about him traveling and missing his partner and very what a musician feels when they're out there on the road, I imagine, right, Tim?
I tell you, when I'm driving on 81 at midnight, that's exactly the feeling that I'm getting. If I go and play a gig in Raleigh and sleep on my friend Kirk's sofa for one night and then eat a delicious breakfast that his wife makes and then drive back the next day, that's exactly the feeling I've.
You wrote this song about going back home under the canyon moon because there's obviously a canyon in Christiansburg, Virginia.
Oh, I tell you, when you get an 81 and you go up Christiansburg Mountain and you come off exit 114, you see that moon twinkling in the sky up there.
Fair enough. Did you, by the way, whenever they had the Northern Lights and it came over Virginia, did you see it, Tim?
No, I didn't.
I'm sad that I only saw a portion of it. We missed an opportunity, Tim.
Yeah, what we should have done is driven out somewhere that was maybe an hour or two away to see the Northern Lights, because that is one of Hannah's ambitions. However, we go through these periods of what we like to call austerity. So, we're not terribly extravagant with the money we spend and the things we do. But what we'll do is we'll decide that we need to buy something like a roof, for example, which I think was what was happening. And then, it's a big expense. So what we do is we knuckle our finances right down to the bone. It's like we're going to buy gas and we're going to buy food and we're going to buy nothing else.
We're just going to live by the bare minimum.
Yeah. And every penny that comes in, we can then put it towards that goal. And when that goal's paid off, we go back to normal. And we're doing that right now because we have a trip in October for my birthday. And prior to that, we had the roof expenditure. But I think the Northern Lights was at the tail end of the roof.
I know, but a lot of people I saw a little bit of it, but to be fair, it was raining where we're at. There's a lot of cloud coverage, and I kind of glanced out, but I saw some pictures some people took, and it was beautiful. It really was. So if they come back around, Tim, we're gonna have to go out, and we're just gonna have to rent an RV. All four of us will get in, and we'll go take pictures of the Northern Lights. Yeah,
I mean, weather in the world is getting very funky and strange, so it wouldn't surprise me if we'll have the Northern Lights again.
The whole world is very funky and strange. So I remember one time we were talking about, and this was during COVID time, so we're talking 3-4 years ago, but it still remains true. My older sister was talking about something that had come out. You know how just weird news after weird news came out whenever COVID was happening, right, Tim? Mm-hmm. And me and Tim live in America. Well, we weren't completely COVID, you couldn't leave your house, but we still, certain things were shut down, like the movie theater, the bowling alley. We still couldn't do everything, right, Tim?
Yeah.
And me and Tim were very conscious. The people who were very conscious just stayed home. We just stayed home. And we ordered our groceries on Amazon, which Tim was already doing anyway, so it really didn't matter. No. Back to what I'm getting at, though. It's my older sister with me were discussing this, and she said something, and I went, honestly, Stephanie, you could tell me tomorrow that when I'm driving to work, the trees have turned purple, and they're eating people, and they're picking up cars on 81. And, you might make it to work, you might not. And you know what would happen, Tim? I'd probably just get in my car and drive. I didn't have it. You know what I mean? I don't have a choice. Yeah. I'm just going to have to drive it if I'm one of the ones that get eaten. So be it. I don't know how to, what do I do with this? It's one of those things where, when you get information, you're like, I don't know what to do with this information. I can't fix that. And that's kind of how it feels. Welcome to living in America in 2024.
There we are.
Anyway, so if trees start eating us tomorrow, Tim, I hope you're not one of the ones who get eaten.
Well, thank you. It'll be like the day of the Triffids.
Well, I don't even know what that is. What are you talking about?
Day of the Triffids. It was a British TV series. I think it was like a mini series, and it was on in the 80s. And the premise is that these big plants, they actually have them at Kew Gardens, and I think they're called Triffids, or they might be called something else. But there's these huge big plants, and they'd orchestrated this massive meteor storm. So everybody went out to see the meteor storm, and everyone's like, "Wow, it's a meteor storm!"
And then they got eaten.
No, and then the next morning, everyone that watched the meteor storm woke up blind.
Wow.
And then, of course, the Triffids then tried to eat everybody because people were wandering around.
Why didn't they just eat them while they were watching the storm?
I have no idea.
Because you've got everybody lined up watching the storm. It would have been the perfect time to start chopping.
I have no idea.
We have some continuity errors with this story.
It was an 80s
Why did you have to make them blind
series
first? I mean, to be honest, America's version is just like the purple people eater, so we don't have much to say. One-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater. I remember. Is that do people in the UK know what the one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater is, Tim, or is that a very American thing?
It's a very American thing. I think some people would know what it is.
Well, to be honest, the only thing I remember from that is I've seen the movie once or twice. But every Halloween, you know what I mean? Except you hear one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people. That's all I take from it is the song. So, moral story is, guys, that's America's version of whatever Tim just said.
The Day of the Triffids.
sounds very British. I thought it was going to be something more just based off of that name. All right, where do we leave off of? We talked about Canyon Moon. So the next song is Late Night Talking, which, to be fair, was a song I'm not super familiar with until I had heard it like once or twice before this. But all I got from this is this song gave major 80s vibes.
I could see that, and it's got that chorus goes, if you're feeling down. It
gave me just like 80s feels, and that's all I got from. I love the 80s, like it's not a bad thing, but that's what I got from this song. And I don't have really better. It's like a hidden message hidden behind 80s vibes, which I don't actually know what the hidden message was because I didn't look that far into it. But I'm sure there was one.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe 80s adjacent. It's not 80s production, but I mean, it's maybe in its feel, it's maybe 80s adjacent.
But I can hear this song being written, and if you put it behind 80s like production, it could work. Does that make sense, Tim? Like, do you hear what I'm saying? I feel like that's what I got from it.
Absolutely.
That's all I got from this song. I don't really have much more to say besides it's a feel-good song that, like, if it came on the radio, I'd be like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, in my head be bopping, but, like, I'm not going to seek it out.
I mean, was this one a big hit? Was this a hit song?
I don't that I know of. It wasn't, from what I understand, the two songs the ones that I know were the biggest ones were Watermelon Sugar High. I think Adore You was on the radio. Sign of the Times was definitely huge.
Gotcha.
Sign of the Times, Watermelon Sugar High were everywhere. Adore You was like on the radio and Golden were, but they're just kind of radio filler. But outside of that, I don't really know much about this song. It probably was used in some movie that I'm not familiar with, and someone screaming at me, "Joy, don't you know?" And by someone, I mean probably Brandi. But
maybe what we should do is have your sister on the podcast just to offer her rebuttal to our...
I was thinking you should have her do a cold opening for this episode, Tim. We might pull her in and like maybe on Friday, see if she wants to do like a 5 minutes. Here's my Harry Styles episode. And if there's one at the beginning of this and you're hearing this now, it worked out.
And if you didn't, it didn't work out.
We didn't talk to her about it. But I mean, I could easily hear this being a big hit.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yes. So the next song on the list is a song called Falling, Tim. What did you write about Falling?
I said that was a slow piano ballad, and it's I'm falling again, I'm falling again. You know, it's the big ballad song.
That's what I got from it. Basically, I said that, like, he does play the piano. So he plays the guitar and he plays the piano. So he is the one playing the piano on this. He's kind of a multi-instrumentist, and he may play other instruments. Don't come for me, internet. I know most people who play the guitar can pick up a ukulele, right, Ted? Like, but I don't know. I do know he's the one playing the piano on this, but this song is probably my least favorite out of the entire group.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say it.
It's not catchy as, say, like Watermelon Sugar High or some of the other
ones. Say that to my poor brain that's been going, Watermelon Sugar High. Watermelon Sugar for the last 3 weeks as we've been listening to the same set of Harry Styles songs. Me and Tim basically should have bought stock in it before it was all said and done.
Well, do you know, my worry is this stuff is going to show on my Spotify Wrapped.
The end of the year, it's going to be like most played song, "Adore You" by Harry Styles. It's going to be like, no, they got me. This is. We'll see if I even get a rap this year. I had to fight Spotify last year. Anyway,
wouldn't that be funny though? That would be hilarious.
What I worry about, Tim, is I listen to, and if she listens to this, and if she loves our podcast, so be it. But I listen to what's known as Michelle's Sanctuary when I go to sleep every night. And she does, like, I guess, kind of like relaxing adult bedtime stories. But I listen to them every night. So there's no way they're not going to show up on my rap. Do you know what I'm saying, Tim?
Sure.
Like, it's going to be like #1 Swiss. And she does stories like you're traveling through the Swiss Alps, or like we were saying, seeing, like, you know what I mean, something in the sky, or you're staying the night in some cabin in the woods or something. And it's just like a relaxing story. Yeah. There's no way Michelle's Sanctuary is not going to be the #1 play thing on my rap.
Well, I mean,
and it's like,
if you like it, you should, as we always say, you shouldn't have to justify that.
I know, but it's not music. It's just some lady who goes, hello, this is Michelle Sanctuary. Like, she just has a very, like, generic voice. And if I don't listen to her when I go to sleep, Tim, this is how bad this obsession has gotten, everybody. Michelle, if you're listening to this, this is what you've done to my brain. When I go to bed at night, if I don't listen to Michelle Sanctuary, she starts every episode with, hello, this is Michelle Sanctuary. I'm Michelle. When I go to sleep every night, I go, hello, this is Joy Sanctuary. I'm Joy. In my own brain. Every night on repeat because of Michelle Sanctuary. Also, if you're looking for something to help you relax when you go to sleep and you struggle with anxiety, Michelle Sanctuary. She's like the perfect voice for it. Honestly, Tim, you could do this too, but you have the perfect voice. It's that generic, like, I don't know how to say this. I don't want to say your voice is generic, but it's that like even pace kind of, you know what I'm saying, Tim, voice that works for that kind of stuff. You could probably record these and be a billionaire by now. I don't know.
Well, people have said to me that my voice sounds like language tapes when people whose first language isn't English and they try and learn the English language. That's what people have said to me before. I have been thinking of setting up a page on Fiverr and recording auto attends.
Too.
What's that?
Upworks is another version of Fiverr.
Yeah. And recording auto attends for people's phone systems because I do it at work. And I get asked to do it all the time. All of the auto attends at my office where I work is me doing press 1 for this and press 2 for that. And I know how to process the files.
80-year-olds think Tim's voice is sexy and called me at work one time. But anyway.
There we are. And I know how to process
happened, everybody.
Yeah, and I know how to process the files for a Cisco system. You have to do a very particular kind of encoding to make it work. So I could be the whole package. I could record your auto attends and provide it in the correct format.
It's funny you say that because Charlie has been talking about, he wants to he was talking about Fiverr, Upwork, all those websites. He wants to start doing, because Charlie has a very soft-spoken voice, Tim, and his is kind of, unlike me, whose voice just, whatever you get is what you get. Sometimes I'm loud, sometimes I'm soft. It's not that I don't. And for those who wonder why that is, I have dyspraxia, which means I can't control the you know what I mean? I can't control it. But Charlie has the same thing Tim does, where they have a very good job of controlling their voice and like that kind of pace. He's been talking about doing like reading books and stuff, like voiceovers for books. And he literally was just telling me last night he was thinking about doing the exact same thing you're talking about, Tim. You guys should be done. All right. So the next song on our list, if we want to get back to it, is called Sweet Creature.
Yes.
Now, I put a note on this one, and this goes back to what Tim was saying. I said this song is just Blackbird from the Beatles.
Yeah, I can see that.
And no, but did you listen to the guitar, Tim? I swear, if you compare the chord progression with Blackbird, it's very similar.
Yeah, I can completely see it. I mean, it's got that sweet creature, sweet creature. Yeah, and you are right. It's coming from the same school of thought, shall we say.
And it's a good song. I actually really like this. I said it's beautiful. This is one of the songs he did on the Tiny Desk series or whatever you want to call it. It was wonderful, Tim. Like, it was just him, the guitar, really kind of like stripped down, wonderful. But when I was listening to it, like with my good headphones on and just I was like, this is just Blackbird. That's all I could hear. And I know that sounds bad. And I'm not trying to insult him because, like me and Tim have said many times, there's only so many guitar chords in the world, especially when you do a stripped down kind of like, you know what I mean, acoustic sound, Blackbird singing. It just has that like sound to it. And so once I heard that, that's all I heard.
Yeah.
And now you guys will never unhear it if you go listen to Sweet. I like this song, though. I think this was probably in the top 3 for me of the songs on the album.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if it was an album, Brady's playlist, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Our curated playlist.
Yeah, there you go. Curated playlist of songs.
Whatever you want to call it. That was probably my favorite, though. What's the next one? But yes, Blackbird is all I got from that. As it was. So this is the song that is probably his biggest hit. And this is Charlie's song. So my husband has played this song a billion times in our house, and that's not even an exaggeration. Sadly, the song seems about trigger warning. If you don't want to hear about this, probably skip about 30 seconds ahead. I'm pretty sure the song is about suicide. I could be wrong, but it sounds like, I know you're alone, answer the phone. Like there's a lot of verbs about that. I'm pretty sure the song is about suicide, unless I'm wrong, Tim. Is that not the vibes you got?
I can see that. I mean, as you know, I'm not really a lyrics person, but I can see where you're coming on with that comment. I will say, looking through my notes on this song, I said it sounds like the intro sounds like a children's song.
Really, that's kind of interesting. I don't know that I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it as many times as I've heard it now. And kind of, what do you mean by that? Like, it reminds you of like a lullaby, or like?
It reminds me of a novelty children's hit, like the Wiggles or something.
Really?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because this was the biggest hits. I mean, it is a really pretty song, though, if you want to listen to it. I'm not saying that Tim's wrong. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it. Like I said, Tim's version of Me with Blackbird is his version with the kids song. But I've never really paid attention to it. What about it do you think made you think it sounded like, do you even remember why you think that?
Where it goes bum 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 bum. It sounds like the intro to a children's novelty hit or a children's TV show.
And then it goes into a song about suicide.
Yeah.
Kind of irony. But I will say it's just from what I get is like it's like go home internet, high speed internet. I don't want to talk about the way that it was. It has like this kind of like rhythm where it does that, and then it slows, and then it does that again, and then if you've heard this song, a lot of the time when I first heard it, I thought it was about like talking about like I truly thought when I first heard this song was talking about just like, it's not the 80s and the 90s anymore. Home internet. I don't want to talk about the way it was. It was only once I started really doing the unpacking when we were listening to this. Because what I did was, and I don't know if you do this, Tim, but on Spotify, you can play the lyrics while you're listening to the song.
Yeah.
I was doing it. And then I was like, oh, I think that song's actually about suicide. And here I was thinking it was a song about not being in the 90s anymore. Kind of weird, though, how that works, though. Have you ever had those moments where you really unpack what the lyrics of the song is and you're like, I've been wrong this entire time?
Yeah, I mean, the best songwriters make songs where the lyrics are completely open to be interpreted however you want.
I think the number one that stands out in my head when you want to talk about it is Semi-Charred Line by Third Eye Blind. The song's about doing drugs, specifically crystal meth. And it's the happiest song you've ever heard in your entire life.
Well, there we go.
You know the song, right, Tim? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a song that's actually come up on the podcast before.
Okay, good. I was just like, I hope that wasn't lost on Tim and he thinks I'm losing it, but it's true. Like, that song is one of those songs that, like, when I think about... Anyway, I think about songs that you don't always realize what they're talking about until it's too late. But maybe that's kind of the point, and that's how they make it onto the radio.
It could be. There we are.
There's my breakthrough. All right. So we're almost through, and Tim can take off his midday listens of Harry Styles. Now, the bonus song, as Brandi put it, but it wasn't really a bonus because I had stuck it on there. We listened to it anyway, and we had time to talk about it, was Music for a Sushi Restaurant. What did you think about Music for a Sushi Restaurant, Tim?
Okay, this was my comment on Music for a Sushi Restaurant. And I quote, sounds like Uptown Funk.
It's weird you say that because my comment was the opening lyric is green eyes and fried rice, which I found hilarious. And I don't know why that's hilarious, but I found it. And then I said, this would have been a great song for Glee.
I could see that. Yeah.
And then I said, such a great bridge into that funky bass, which makes sense how you thought it was Uptown Funk, because what is Uptown Funk known for? The bass line. Because Mark Ronson with that kind of famous, you know what I'm talking about, that bass line. And that's what I got from this song about a sushi restaurant. What it has to, I don't know that sushi restaurants play this kind of, every time I've been to an Asian restaurant, Tim, you get two things. You either get classical music or you get modern day songs put into classical music, and once you're listening, you're like, wait, is Achy Breaky Heart playing? But it's like a Asian version. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever heard those songs, Tim?
I have. Whenever I go into Panda Express, which isn't really a proper Chinese restaurant, they're playing the same playlist that CVS plays.
But you know what I'm talking about? If you're at like a sit down Asian restaurant, they have like the kind of like. So I remember distinctly, me and my friend in high school, we used to go to this Japanese place a lot. Mm-hmm. And they would have just classical music playing. So when I was in Cats the Musical, my friend Bethany was in Cats the Musical, and we were doing this outside of school because we were part of a local production. And we had like I don't know, probably 8 weeks straight of rehearsal because Cats is a hard musical. It's a very hard musical. If you're not familiar, there's a lot of dancing. Andrew Lloyd Webber is a psycho when it comes to his music. Like it's technically tough, right? Mm-hmm. And we're doing this outside of school. And then we had about 3 weeks. We had like 3 to 6 weeks of like actual Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we were performing. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we spent a lot of time together. And I picked up Bethany a lot because she couldn't drive yet. So I would pick her up and we'd go to practice, and then we'd go on these weekends, and we would go eat together after school before we had practice. But we kept going to what's known as Kyoto, I think is what it is in Galax, Virginia. And they would play classical music, and it would sound kind of have like some Asian flair, but it would be American songs. And so you would be sitting there and you'd be like, and then out of nowhere, you'd hear Uptown Funk, but it would have like a classical Asian flair to it. I don't know where they were getting these, but me and Bethany would spend our entire time waiting on our food to show up trying to figure out what the song was. And the irony was every once in a while, some of the songs from Cats, the musical we were doing, would come up. And I still don't know if they were actually coming up or if we were just so burnt at that point of going to Cats production and Cats musicals and doing Cats, you know what I mean, for so long that we were hearing Cats music and the Asian music that was playing while we were eating our soup. I have no idea. But to this day, that sticks. It's one of my favorite memories, though. And if Bethany listens to the podcast, which I actually think she does, she's wrote me many times. That is one of my favorite memories of those times in my life. Cool story for those who don't know. My senior year of high school, and this is very American, I had to do a full makeup, full fat suit. I wore a fat suit because I was the fat cat.
Okay.
I don't know. I've sent 10 pictures of this. I mean, I wore a full fat suit. And it was very hot on those stage lights. And I had to do full makeup. And then prom was that night. I went straight from a morning show and like a midday show and an evening show that I ran home, took all my Cats makeup on, fixed my hair, and went straight to prom night.
Yep, I've seen those pictures.
So there you go, guys. That is dedication. If I tried to do that now, Tim, I would be at 9 o'clock and be like, I'm not going to prom, screw it. Like now I'd be like, it's not worth it. But as 17-year-old Joy, she was dedicated.
Yes.
All right, Tim. So what is your overall feels of Harry Styles? What do you leave Brandi with?
I would say I'm not disappointed with Harry Styles. I didn't dislike any Harry Styles' music. And in a way, I'm happy to know what that's about now because it's a name I've heard. However, it's not somebody I would ever seek out to listen to again.
If you had to pick one song on the playlist that you had to listen to again, and it wasn't Matilda because that was the first one, what would you pick, Tim?
Watermelon Sugar High.
That makes sense because that's probably his number one. And if you haven't heard it, guys, you'll understand why it's his biggest hit. It's a pop kind of like, Tim was kind of talking about the Katy Perry pop classics. I'd say Watermelon Sugar High brings up there like that.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. What do you want to leave the people with? 2
things. 1, be kind to everyone that you meet. And 2, if you live in the United States, make sure you are registered to vote.
And with that, I say, if you are not registered to vote, if you have me on Facebook, I have the ability to help you register, and I'll be happy to do that.
See you later. Bye-bye.